Good morning, students. We have been discussing about the chapter Intellectual Awakening and Socio-Political Changes. In part 1 of this chapter, we have discussed about the new religion that emerged during the 6th century BC. We have discussed about Confucianism and Taoism, which emerged as a religion in China, and Zoroastrianism in Persia. So, in this chapter, we are going to discuss about Jainism and Buddhism. So, as we had discussed earlier, during the growth of 6th century BC, with the revival of urbanization and trade, and with the impact of iron technology in India, there were a greater change in the religion and in the society and in the political changes of a kingdom. So, in the Gangetic Valley, people learned to produce crops that was required for the subsistence. So, some other sections of the people took up some professional crafts as their livelihood. Like the farmers, these craftsmen also completely relied upon a certain group of people who collected raw materials and distributed these craft products. Such a concentration enabled villages to evolve into towns and exchange centers. For example, towns like Vaishali, Rajagriha, Kashumbi, Kashi were some of the significant commercial centers of the Gangetic Plain. So, because of this Gangetic Plain's growth, the socio-political system of a people changed when compared to the Vedic period. So, from the Vedic period, we could see that there were indiscriminate killing of cattle for Vedic rituals and sacrifices, which caused resentment to many sections of the people. One such a people, or a few such people, who were deeply affected by such a kind of killing of cattle, founded Jainism and Buddhism, because the founders of Jainism and Buddhism does not prescribe killing as a religious right. The people's resentment about the expensive, elaborative Vedic rituals, animal sacrifices, and desire for wealth eventually took them towards Jainism and Buddhism. So, this founder of Jainism and Buddhism, Mahavira and Buddha, lived a life of purity and exemplified simplicity and self-denial. Yes, my dear students, in this part, we will be discussing about elaborately about Jainism and Buddhism. So, as you all know that Jainism is a religion, Vardhamana Mahavira was born in 599 BC as Kundagram near Vaishali. As we had discussed earlier, Vaishali was once such a commercial centers of the Gangetic Plain. His mother was Trishala, and he spent his early life as a prince, and he was married to a princess named Yashoda. They had a couple daughter. At the age of 30, he left his home and became an ascetic. For nearly 12 years, Mahavira wandered from place to place, subjecting himself to severe penance and self-mortification. At the 13th year, after a self-destruction, he acquired highest knowledge, that is known as Keval knowledge, at a place called Jambigram, at the bank of Rajupalika river under a salt tree. Since he acquired the highest knowledge, he came to be known as Jaina, which means the conqueror, and Mahavira, the great hero. Jains believe that Mahavira came in a long line of Tirthankaras, and he was the 24th and last of them. After gaining a Keval knowledge, I mean the highest knowledge, Mahavira traveled extensively as a preacher in the kingdoms of Magadha, Veda, and Anga. There were many followers who followed the teachings and the philosophies and the beliefs of Jainism. The great rulers such as Magadha rulers such as Bimbisara and Arthashastru were also influenced by his teachings. So after preaching for more than 30 years, Mahavira died at Pavaburi in 527 BC at the age of 72. So we have discussed about the Mahaviras, the birth and the life of Mahavira, and now we will be discussing about the teachings of Mahavira. So when you speak about the teachings of Mahavira, he speaks always about the three principles. So the three principles of Mahavira is right faith, right knowledge, and right action. This is what we call it as Triratnas or three jewels. So what do you mean by right faith? Right faith is nothing but belief in the teaching and wisdom of Mahavira. It's in Tamil I could say that is a nambikai. He insisted that they should believe in the teachings and wisdoms of Mahavira. And next is right knowledge, acceptance of the theory that there is no God and that the world existed without a creator. That is the right knowledge. He speaks that we should accept the theory that there is no God and the world existed without a creator. And then he speaks about the right action, and that the right action is the five doctrines of Jainism. It refers to Mahavira's observance of five great vows, and that five great vows are known as five doctrines of Jainism, which comes under right action. He speaks about ahimsa, do not commit violence, not to injure someone else, non-violence. Then he speaks about satya. It means we do not speak a lie. We should not speak a lie. We should always be truthful. And then he says we should not steal asteya. We should not steal. And aparigraha, do not acquire the property. It means we should not acquire others' property, non-possessions. And then he also speaks about brahmacharya, observe continence. So these are the five doctrines of Jainism, which comes under the right action. So the Mahavira's three principles or Triratnas or three jewels is right faith, right knowledge, and right action. Now we would be studying about some other important matters or some other wordings which are said by Jainism. Jainism, as we discussed earlier in the right knowledge, he said nothing is new or destroyed in this world. The change is only happening. According to Jainism, he says that this world is undergoing a change process. Nothing is new, or nothing is created, or nothing is destroyed. Whatever that exists is undergoing a change process. And therefore they believe in the performance of a matter, and the matter changes the form. It is neither created nor destroyed. They believe that this world is like a matter and this matter changes the form. According to Jainism, there are innumerable living beings in this world which are held in bondage. Yes, absolutely, my dear students. The love and the affection or the desire that we show on some other creatures or some other living beings is the reason for the bondage. The purpose of Jainism is to free the jiva from the bondage. Jiva, it means our internal eternity. They wanted to free us from that bondage. And these are the some of the important cores about Jainism. And now we will be discussing about the spread of Jainism. In order to spread his belief, or in order to spread his faith, Mahavira founded monasteries. The Jains, who led a very austere life, stayed in the monasteries. In North India, this new faith was patronized by rulers such as Dhanananda, Chandragupta Maurya, and Kharvela. There were notable followers of Jainism in Karnataka and Western India during the 4th century BC. Mahavira believed that all objects, both animate or inanimate, have souls and various degrees of consciousness. They possess life and feel pain when they are injured. Absolutely, my dear students. Even it might be the animals, it might be the living beings or the non-living beings. They have some degree of consciousness. They possess life and feel the pain when they are injured. So when this split of Jainism occurred, when there is a spread in Jainism, there occurred a split in Jainism. In course of time, Jainism split into two branches, that is namely Svedambaras and Digambaras. So who were Digambaras? Digambaras are the sections of people who would not wear clothes and they were conservative. And Svedambaras are those who started wearing clothes and they are progressives. It means they wanted a change in their system of religion. But Digambaras are the people who do not want a change and they do not wear clothes and they were conservative. Their chief was Bhadrabahu, who converted Chandragupta to Jainism. So after the split of Jainism, this Jainism in due course of time, due to the lack of royal patronage, its severity and the spread of Buddhism led to the decline Jainism in India. So next we will be discussing about Buddhism. Gautama Buddha, who was the son of Sudodana, the chief of Kshatriya clan of the Sakyas of Kapilabastu, that is situated in Nepal at present day. He was given the name Siddhartha. Since he belonged to Sakya clan, he was also known as Sakya Muni. His mother Maya Devi died after a few days of his birth and he was brought up by his stepmother. And at the age of 16, his father got him married to a princess called Yashodhara. He led a very happy life, married life for some time and had a son by name Rahula. But the important thing about Gautama Buddha, I mean the Siddhartha, is that he was inherited with some egalitarian sentiments. So what do you mean by egalitarian? It means believing all the peoples are equal and deserve equal rights and opportunities. He thought that every people are equal, and because of his egalitarian sentiment, he wanted to know what is right and why there is a suffering among the people. So one evening, he had a walk passing through the city where he came across many incidents. In particular incidents, he came across an old man who had been abandoned by his relatives, was just wandering here and there in the roadside. It was one incident. And next, he saw a sick man crying with pain and a dead body surrounded by a weeping relatives. So after seeing these two incidents, Siddhartha was passing by and he was deeply moved with these sights. When he turned towards the other side of the road, he also saw an ascetic who had renounced the world and found no signs of sorrows. So these great foresights promoted him to renounce the world and search for the cause of suffering. He wanted to know what is the reason of the suffering. Because of this great foresights, in 1537 he left his palace and went into forest in search of truth. That is known as great renunciation. In course of his wanderings, he got enlightenment in a place Uruvela known as Mahabodhi in Bihar, in Bodh Gaya, Bihar. And the place where he got enlightenment was under a peepal tree. So this was the great incident that changed the entire life of the Buddha, and because of this enlightenment, now we all have a new religion, that is Buddhism. So after his enlightenment, Buddha decided to impart knowledge to the people. So he wandered from place to place, he wandered everywhere, and he gave his sermon. And the first sermon that he gave was at Sarnath. He preached in the kingdoms of Magadha and Kosala. A large number of people became his followers, including his own family. At 45 years of preaching, he breathed his last in 487 BC at Kushinagar at the age of 80. So when we speak about Buddhism and when we speak about the birth and life of Buddha, this fourth incident is known as Mahaparinirvana. It means when Lord Buddha died in Kushinagar, which is in eastern Uttar Pradesh. So now we will be discussing about the teachings of Buddhism. So what are the teachings of Buddhism? What are the belief and faith of Buddhism? There are four noble truths. He said there are four noble truths. It means the four great truths. There is a suffering and sorrow in this world. Absolutely, there is all around misery in this world. The cause of a misery is attachment. And he says there is a cause for misery, that is an attachment. The cause for human suffering is a desire and craving, that is attachment. And he speaks about this pain or sorrow can be removed by suppressing the desire and craving. This is which is known as Duggam Nirodh. Checking is possible to misery. It means checking is possible for your attachment. And all this sufferings or sorrow is because of an attachment. And he speaks about noble eightfold path where we can find a path to end misery. And that is known, this noble eightfold path is known as Astantiga Marga, or a middle path, or a path of equilibrium. He says that one who follows this, he is freedom of misery. He can be totally free from the attachment. When a particular person is totally free from attachment, there is no the place for suffering and sorrow. And next he speaks about attainment of nirvana. It is also one of the teachings of Buddha. According to Buddha, he says a person should aim at attainment of nirvana or the highest bliss. And it could be achieved by any person by leading or by following the noble eightfold path which is being prescribed by the teachings of Buddha. The eight noble fold path, the noble eightfold paths are right views. Your view should be exactly right. Right aspirations, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right meditations. The person who is following this noble eightfold path can attain the nirvana and he can be free from the sufferings. And he also speaks about code of conduct for his followers. That is, we do not covet the property of others. As we have discussed in Jainism, and all these principles or the codes are same when compared to the Jainism also. Do not covet the property of others. Non-possession, that is aparigraha. And do not commit violence. Ahimsa. Do not use intoxicants, use of alcohol liquors. Do not speak a lie. Do not indulge in corrupt practices. These are all the code of conducts which are told by Buddha to his followers. And the spread of Buddhism. Buddhism, in order to carry his message to different parts of India, established a Buddhist Sangha, or a holy order of monks, where the monks stay there and enlist for spreading the faith, and they were required to lead a life of purity and poverty. Buddhism spread to Central Asia, Sri Lanka, Tibet, China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam. It spread all around the half of the world. And when there is a spread in Buddhism in a greater mass, and there occurred a spread in Buddhism during the region of Kanishka, the Buddhist monk Nagarjuna initiated reform in the way the Buddhist was being followed. As a result of the reform and Buddhism now, it has split into two different types. It is known as Mahayana and Hinayana. So these people, Hinayana, and they are a conservative order. So they no need a change. They are the conservative order who does not believe in the worship of image. And Hinayana rejects the concept of a bodhisattva. And Hinayana believes in karma or action. And according to Hinayana, there is just one Buddha. And these people of Hinayana continued to preach in Pali language. There were no concept of Tantrika cult in Hinayana. But in case of Mahayana, they are the progressive order. They wanted a change. They believe in image worship of Buddha and Bodhisattva. Concept of Bodhisattva is central to the Mahayanism, and Mahayana believes in bhakti and devotion. In Mahayana, there can be any number of Buddhas. They adapted Sanskrit in their religious book to spread the Buddhism. And such a kind of Buddhist practices of Buddhism was patronized by a Kanishka. The Mahayana form of Buddhism was patronized by a Kanishka. So because of a split in Buddhism, do you think there will be a decline in Buddhism? Absolutely, there occurred a decline in Buddhism in India, and it had many reasons. As we all know that Buddhism was popular in the beginning because it was preached in people's language, which is Pali. And because of the split in Buddhism, the later texts were written in Sanskrit, which was difficult for common people to understand. And because of the split in Buddhism into Hinayana Mahayana, it was another vital reason. Because image worship in Mahayana made no difference between Hinduism and Buddhism. Buddhism lost its royal patronage during the region of Guptas. Further, the invasion of Huns and Turks almost wiped out Buddhism. So these are the reasons that there was a decline of Buddhism. And during this period, and during the period that produced Buddhism and Jainism, and we have also witnessed the birth of a new sect known as Ajivika. A new sect known as Ajivika. Its founder was Gosala, and her name is Maskariputra Gosala, and a friend of Mahavira who found this particular sect Ajivika. For some time they were together, and later Gosala moved away and founded a Ajivika sect. Ajivikas rejected karma theory, which postulated that the condition of men is determined by their past actions. They said the condition of men is not determined by the past acts, and Gosala argued that acts of charity and pity can in no way influence this finality. Ajivika had a small presence in southern India, and at the Cholas a special tax was levied on them. So my dear students, so far we have discussed about the emergence of new religion during the 6th century BC, and in next part we will be discussing about the rise of kingdoms. The emergence of a religion led to the rise of kingdoms which awakened many people, and because of this there were greater socio and political changes among the kingdoms of Gangetic Valley. So we will be discussing about this in the next part. Thank you.